One may observe the priests getting closer to the Solamira hive. Black Hat notices that something is off as soon as they enter, but Priest is enthusiastic about their mission to locate the queen, so they continue. They hear some sounds in the front and are ready to fire, but then they realize it's a trap because people are being pushed beneath the surface. While some are captured, others manage to flee in search of daylight. Upon arriving at the final tunnel, Priest is unable to assist Black Hat in evading capture. There have always been vampires in the world of the priests. For eons, the world and its inhabitants had been destroyed in a brutal war between vampires and humans. The church provided protection for the humans when they withdrew into walled towns in fear of extinction. Then they developed the priests, the ultimate weapon against the vampires. They were formidable fighters, skilled in the art of vampire warfare, and they eliminated the vampire threat on their own. With the surviving vampires placed under restraint, the priests were dissolved by the church. A small number of them survive, assimilated into a society that has outgrown its necessity, and fading into obscurity alongside vampires. Many years later, Owen checks the radiation levels by boring into the ground. Based on his research, he informs his spouse Shannon that they could be able to begin planting. As soon as Lucy gets home, she makes a cunning comment about food that she can smell. When she replies that she was in town, when Owen asks where she's been, he becomes enraged with her for breaking their agreement. He informs her the rule doesn't apply where they live. Even if she claims she's old enough, there are sacrifices that must be made. Lucy becomes enraged because she believes that their outpost is a jail. Shannon breaks up their fight by forcing them to say grace, which calms them both down. Lucy is startled when the ground begins to tremble. When Owen goes outside, he notices a group of vampires moving toward the residence. The women are told to bow down by him. Lucy is brought into their hiding spot by Shannon, who instructs her not to scream at anything she hears. She stays behind to assist Owen with the house. Lucy hears her parents screaming and gunshots as they are being torn apart by vampires. Lucy is terrified as someone enters via the hatch. One may glimpse the skyline of Cathedral City. It continues to be shielded by the church. The governing clergy keeps a close check on its residents. Church bells ring and everyone pauses to show respect as a priest is seen moving among the crowd. A voice that appears to be disembodied declares that disobeying the church means disobeying God. The priest enters the automated booth and proceeds to a confessional. The system recognizes his voice as he begs for forgiveness for his transgressions. The priest proceeds straight to his confession after an automated version of Monsignor Aurelis appears on screen. Dreams of the vampire fight and the moment he failed to save a comrade plagued him. The priest's religion is now being questioned and doubted. The automated Monsignor responds, "The devil takes many forms, but one can overcome him by self-sacrifice and hard work," and offers him his prayers of repentance. Later, the priest is riding in an elevator with a youngster and his mother as they return to their home. When the youngster inquires about his tattoo, his mother warns him not to approach priests. The man who has been pursuing him is knocked over as he is ready to enter his flat. Hicks informs him that he is the sheriff in the area where his brother Owen resides, that he has suffered injuries, that Shannon was slain, and that Lucy was stolen by vampires. The man enters with the priest and informs him that Lucy has described him as a military hero, who is the greatest at eliminating vampires. He claims he will pursue her, and that he might utilize him in tandem with her. The priest is unable to accept. He visits the ruling clergy to request the restoration of his priestly authority. Monsignor Chamberlain told Monsignor Aurelis about his problems. The priest tells them that his family was assaulted by vampires, to which the Monsignor chuckles, adding that no vampire has escaped the reservations. He believes the sheriff was wrong, and that it was the act of bandits from the wasteland. The Monsignor declares that the threat posed by vampires has subsided. When Chamberlain tries to help the priest in his search, he shuts him down and gives the priest the order to maintain the citizens' faith. The Monsignor reminds the priest that it is very illegal to criticize the authority of the clergy as the priest presses him with more questions. He would lose his position in the order and be excommunicated if he disobeyed them. Meanwhile, the vampires are holding Lucy captive inside a speeding train. One of them teases her till Black Hat shows up. He explains to her that she is protected by being in a cage. She warns him that she and her uncle priest will be targeted by someone. She is unaware that Black Hat is precisely banking on that information. Priest is sad that they wouldn't listen to him after everything that he has sacrificed. But Monsignor Chamberlain assures him that the decision is definitive. The priest disputes Chamberlain's assertion that the war has been won for a long time. He advises the priest against committing sacrilege in order to find a tiny group of scavengers. The priest replies that he has, and the cops break into the tavern where they are. According to Chamberlain, He must consider the greater good and refrain from inciting unrest that could worsen the situation. Despite Chamberlain's desire to guide the priest toward making the right decision, the priest is dissatisfied. In a matter of seconds, he eliminates each officer one by one, ready to betray his word. Later on, he can be seen getting ready to pursue the girl with his weapons. After revealing his ship, he leaves Cathedral City on horseback. The priest enters the harsh and bleak wasteland, leaving behind the last traces of the human world. He gets to his brother's outpost quite quickly. The priest enters the wrecked homestead and finds a portrait of Owen's family. Upon realizing it's the priest, the sheriff, who initially believed he was looting, is relieved to see him arrive. Together, they bike to the town. As soon as they get there, the sheriff expels a salesman from his community for attempting to sell his people fictitious weapons to use against the vampires. Hicks informs the townspeople that there are no longer any vampires, despite their protests, and claims that they do require the guns. Later, as they wait for the doctor to allow them to see Owen, he and the priest converse. The clergyman enters and takes a seat beside him. When Owen asks him why he never returned, he responds that he was no longer able to. The priest consoles Owen as he regrets that he did not have his talent and was unable to save Shannon, stating that he gave her a life that he could not. She would never forget him. Owen implores him to swear that he will track out Lucy and eliminate every vampire. Afterwards, the sheriff informs the priest that the clergy is searching for him and that Lucy's rescue is not permitted. He claims he wants to go along with the priest's rescue mission, but he tests the priest by saying no. Hicks snatches a bullet and uses a knife to split it in half in midair. When the priest asks how proficient he is with a gun, he responds that he is even more skilled than with a knife. The priest tells him that the bullets are for him, before he exits the room when he questions why he is getting ready to fire when they don't use guns. Once again, a group of priests known as the Monsignors has been summoned to Cathedral City. They are to bring Priest in, alive or dead. Priestess finds that command objectionable. They still bike, though. Priest attends the funeral of his brother, who is buried close to Shannon. When Hicks arrives at Owen's outpost, he asks what he has discovered. The footsteps that the priest has discovered don't correspond with those of the vampires or their familiars. They'll start their hunt in the direction those originated. They hitchhike to the nearest vampire reservation together. The sheriff argues that they are a fallen tribe. With the sun setting, they won't have much time. When they go inside, they discover that the area is teeming with unauthorized familiars, and that there are no guards there. The sheriff clarifies that the majority of those individuals are familiars voluntarily who hope to become afflicted in the future. When they get close to a familiar, he informs them that their territory is under protection and the priest is not welcome there. When the sheriff explains what they're searching for, the familiar responds that nobody has entered their reservation. As they enter through the main gate, they see the location in a horrible state, with the bodies of the guards strewn all over the area. Entering a cell, the priest questions a familiar, threatening to expose his master's coffin if he doesn't reveal Lucy's location. Abruptly, a gang of friends materializes, prepared for combat. After they assault the sheriff, who flees outside, the other familiar attacks him instead. All but one of the familiars are killed by the priest, who arrives just in time. When he is being questioned, he stands up for the vampires and portrays the priest as the monster. He informs him that it is too late since it is their time of night. When the sun sets, the vampires emerge from their coffins as the sun sets, and quickly round the sheriff and the priest. The priest takes out a Bible and starts to read when he suddenly takes out weapons and kills two of the vampires with them. He fights another, and Hicks tries to shoot one, but the priest overpowers him and kills him as well. One of the vampires screams and bolts from the scene. The priest asks the familiar once more when he returns. They carried her to the west, he claims, but he has no idea what lies ahead. Returning, the vampire assaults the priest. Within the boundaries of the reservation, they fight and perish. The priest escapes unharmed while Hicks waits with his revolver drawn. The priest informs them that the Solomira hive is located in the west while they discuss what they should do. Hicks explains that even though he believes all of the hives have been destroyed, they should still search because they might find Lucy if they discover missing vampires from the reserve. Then, since vampires don't move like people do, he provides Hicks some advice on how to kill them. He has to predict their movements if he wants to kill one. A town salesperson stops by Black Hat in the interim to provide him with some information. Black Hat threatens to swallow his blood, so he gives him the knowledge despite his request for payment. The salesman informs him that the priest was with the sheriff when he arrived in the town following Lucy's abduction. He's done well, Black Hat says, but he still swallows his blood and turns him into a familiar. Priestess has arrived at the outpost simultaneously and is pursuing them. The sheriff and the priest take a journey out west. He says no when the priest asks him during a break if his brother was aware that Hicks was with Lucy. And he says yes when asked if he loved her. The priest threatens to kill her if he finds out that she is infected. That is not something the sheriff will permit him to do. They reach the hive at last and scale its walls. The priest had flashbacks to his time spent there during the war. As soon as they enter, he commands the sheriff to shoot everything that appears and isn't him. After lighting up the hive, the clergyman descends into the tunnel. Hicks investigates the level of the hive he is on and discovers a toy buried beneath the earth. Something materializes behind him. Priest explores the hive's tunnels in the interim. He watches as someone dashes by him and gets followed. Priestess jumps him when he looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel. When the priest asks her why she's there, she explains that the clergy sent her. At the reservation, she and the others parted ways. He explains to her that breaking his commitment was his only option. From a distance, they hear gunfire. Priest informs Hicks that the thing they have discovered is a hive guardian, too large to fit down there. Priest and priestess charge at it. After knocking Priest unconscious, the beast chases Priestess. It hovers over them, ready to attack. Too large to fit down there. Priest and priestess charge at it. After knocking Priest unconscious, the beast chases Priestess. It hovers over them, ready to attack. Priest delivers the final blow after they cooperate to get to the beast. The creature suddenly comes to, and Hicks kills it with a gunshot. Afterwards, Hicks watches the entryway as the priests converse. Why would a guardian be there in an abandoned hive? Wonders the priestess. Then she informs him that if Lucy is infected, the sheriff would attempt to stop him from killing her. Priest believes it would be impossible. They describe their struggles and discuss what they did after the war. She informs him that although she didn't come there to warn him, she won't be taking him in. She is experiencing PTSD from the war, just like he is. During her happy times, though, she thinks of him. They reach a newly renovated area of the hive as the three of them carry on their exploration. When they enter, they discover a large hive intended to house a new army. The fact that nobody is there is the only issue. Priest was abducted much later by clergy, and Priest's sacrifice was greater than most of them. Priestess informs Hicks as they continue their investigation. He approaches them and remarks that the air is changing as they discover a large exit that faces Jericho, the location of other priests' journey. The man who works at the station is shocked to learn that a vampire train is arriving at Jericho station at the same time. Comes to a stop directly in front of him, but nobody exits. He is killed by a vampire as he goes to check the door. Black Hat then exits the room and signals for the others to start the hunt. A vampire breaks into a family's house while they are enjoying some music, killing the father. The vampire army is attacking the entire town, and Black Hat is conducting it like an opera. The three priests who were pursuing the priests suddenly show up and confront him. He dispatches the first one with ease. The two that are left are asked if they would like to accompany Black Hat. When the crew gets to the town the next morning, they discover it to be abandoned. They split apart to look through the structures. Devzit discovers dynamite. Priest then enters an empty dwelling. When Hicks and Priestess reunite, he informs her that nobody is left. There were too many mouths to feed, according to her. In the midst of the town, they discover a priest praying in front of the other priests' bodies. She drops to the ground with him. What kind of vampire could have killed three of them? Hicks wonders. The priest responds that it is a novel observation. Then it occurs to him how the vampires could have left the city before dawn. When they get at the train station, Hicks informs them that Jericho is the final stop on the rail that travels up to the cities. Priestess and priest come to the realization that everything was part of a well-thought-out scheme to get the priests out of the city so that the entire vampire army could destroy the helpless cities. After demonstrating the explosives to them, she devises a scheme whereby she will destroy the railway and the two of them will retrieve Lucy from the train. Priest goes to refuel the motorcycles. In the meantime, Black Hat feeds Lucy, who is really worn out and bruised. He tells her he wants freedom from the penalty of sin, which is what everyone wants. After taking a knife and hiding it, Lucy asks what he is. He goes on to say that he believes vampires to be more pure than humans and that he is the one who will purify the dirty world. Black Hat continues, saying that she and Priest will assist him. Returning to Jericho, Hicks queries the priestess on how the priest could kill Lucy when she is his own flesh and blood even though she is afflicted. She informs him that she is no longer someone's flesh and blood after becoming a familiar. They set the other three priests' bodies on fire before they depart from the village. Priestess reminds Priest that God, not the church, is the source of their strength. She tells him that she loves him and that she had thought Shannon's death would finally set him free. She also gives him a unique weapon. Together, they ride in the direction of the train and pause to watch it pass by when Hicks threatens to murder them unless he makes a vow not to kill Lucy if she turns. He doesn't even understand why he would be concerned. The priestess claims that Lucy is his daughter having been taken by the clergy when she was a newborn. His sacrifice to Owen was giving her to him. Priest warns him that they can only save her together, and that if he kills him, he will not be able to save her on his own. Priest instructs Priestess to blow up the rails as they get closer to the train, even if they are still on it. Hicks boards the train from the rear. Familiar riders follow her as she rides forward. Priestess releases her hold on her nitro drive and runs away. Priest climbs into the train, where Black Hat is waiting for Hicks. As he steps into a vampire lair, the confused priest is told by Black Hat that the vampire queen changed him into a human vampire, and he invites him to come back to the city with him as a brother. When the priest inquires about his daughter, he responds that she is awaiting his decision. He attacks, but Black Hat blocks the blow and informs him that he is now stronger than he is, meaning he cannot prevail. As the riders approach, Priestess watches over the explosives on the tracks and arms them. She promptly engages with them and is ready to fight. She executes a stunning display of strength and skill to slay them all. She devises a new scheme after realizing that one of the familiars has disassembled the detonator. While battling on the train, Priest and Black Hat are nearly equal in power and expertise. However, the vampire always prevails. He asks the priest to come back with him, but Black Hat dodges his every attempt as he flings his fist toward him in defiance. He thinks he's pushed Priest under the tracks after knocking him down, but Priest grabs onto the rein. Hicks encounters Lucy when she is being carried away by a familiar as he navigates the train, and manages to avoid a hive of vampires, emerging at the same time. As soon as the priest punches his way into the train, he intends to blow up the door. Suddenly, the vampires are inside the train car. Hicks fires first at them, then lets light in by forcing holes in the ceiling. They pursue Lucy through the train, and when they finally catch up to her, Black Hat throws Hicks off the train and prevents them from reaching her. Hicks discovers a friend's motorcycle. Black Hat is destroying Priest, but Lucy is able to escape her captor's hold and set him on fire. She then pursues the vampire, who reveals to her that the priest is her paternal uncle. He stabs the priest against a wall during their subsequent altercation. Lucy is taken from the train by Black Hat, who then leaves the priest to burn. Priestess mounts the explosives on her bike and heads for the train at the same moment. Priest gets off the wall and wakes up. Just as Black Hat is about to flip Lucy, he emerges out of nowhere and hits him. He catches her just in time as she stumbles. As they watch the priestess approach, Black Hat prepares to push them off as they dangle over the edge of the train. Priest leaps off the bike while holding Lucy, and she jumps off the bike as it hits the train. The vampires inside the train perish along with it. Hicks runs toward the explosion as soon as he notices it. When he gets there, Priest and Lucy are still alive. In his arms, the girl leaps. As the priestess approaches them, Black Hat's hat drops to the floor. A priest later attends a mass conducted by Monsignor Aurelius. He walks up to him and makes fun of him for returning. Priest tells him to examine the burning train outside the city and tosses a vampire head in front of his legs. The vampire queen, he claims, was not one of them. Aurelius refers to him as a threat and a charlatan. As he leaves, the priest declares that the battle against the vampires has only just begun. In the wasteland, he encounters the priestess, who tells him that she has told the others to meet them at the meeting in a different city. He gallops out into the twilight,